You have a 4x20 heater treater. There's no firewall around the heater treater right now because the well doesn't make any water, so we're bypassing it. So the treater's there if we ever need it, but it's not in use. You have two 210 barrel steel oil tanks with a firewall around them. The reserve pit for this well was right outside the fence. We didn't have a fence here when we drilled the well. We put the fence in after. We recontoured the reserve pit to the slope of the land, seeded it, and fertilized it. Nobody likes to pipeline oil anymore because the pipeline companies don't like the risk of having leaks in their pipeline, so almost all new wells are trucked. I cannot get the location much smaller than this because a 180 barrel tanker has to pull in here, load over there at the load line, and they have enough room to get around and go back out.
You mentioned something about a tank, a holding tank, that if water was made or whatever, it would dump into that. Where did you position that? If it would have been here, where would you have positioned that?
What we would have done is we would have set another 210 barrel tank where that tank battery is, extended the firewall, and then what happens if you make any water, you go through your heater treater. Your heater treater works, it opens on weight of fluid. It closes on gas pressure. So when you got enough fluid in the treater, it would dump the oil to the oil tank, it'll dump the water to the water tank. And when enough fluid has been dumped, then the pressure, the gas pressure on what we call the dump valve closes that. And so the water would go into a 210 water tank, same size as these. A vacuum truck would come in every so often, pick it up, take it to one of our disposal wells and dispose it.
So at the drilling of the well, you do set that third tank?
No. You don't encounter any salt water to the surface while you're drilling the well. None of this production equipment would be here during the drilling of the well.
Plus, you're going to be up from any salt water, aren't you?
How do you catch that if you do encounter that salt water?
You don't. The weight.
Never ever have you ever encountered that. Not you, but in this type of drilling.
No. Your bottom hole, normal bottom hole pressure is 0.43 pounds per foot. So let's just make it round numbers. At 1,000 feet, you would have 430 pounds of bottom hole pressure. That would be normal. If we drill the well with typical weight drilling mud, which is 9.4 or 9.5 pound mud weight, the hydrostatic head that we have on the formations is greater than the bottom hole pressure coming up. So we don't have any significant water flows or anything like that. We hope
to that
didn't
place.
You say, dear life, you would be up from where there would be any salt water?
We drilled a dry hole over here off the end of Commerce Street on Cynthia Brown. That well is below the oil water contact of this reservoir. So the Curry well across from Mark's Funeral Home is about 80 feet up structure from that well.
And this is going to be up structure from there.
And the next well over by the Compassion Foundation should be 50 or 60 feet even higher than that.
What about the reserve pit that's outside the fence? When would it be used? Is it used? Why is it outside the fence? Does it matter?
Well, that's something that's just in play while you're drilling. That's only in play while you're drilling. We're required by the Oil and Gas Commission to have it closed, seeded, fertilized, and returned, not fertilized, but closed, seeded, and returned to grade within 6 months after the well's drilled. We don't need that. We don't need that anymore for operation. We've closed it. The pines are going, this well's been here producing since December, put on pump December of '09. Those pines will eventually reseed that The borings will have merchantable timber on that again at some point in time in the not too distant future. I mean, it's when we leave and make our round and we go to the Curry location, you will see a reserve pit that's just recently closed last week, and the fence is fixing to be put in place. The reserve pit will be outside. Ron May will get that acreage back.
Is it used during the process to hold fluids of some sort, or is it just have to have it in case something happens?
It holds waste drilling mud. Your drilling mud after a certain length of time gets, I don't want to use the word contaminants, but it gets cuttings. I mean, you're drilling earth.
Right. Yeah.
And that the drilling mud does several things. One, it controls any excessive bottom hole pressure, which we don't have. The other thing it does is it lubricates the drill bit and the drill string and keeps them cool. The third thing it does is stabilize the hole so that it doesn't cave in. The fourth thing it does is it brings those cuttings back to the surface. And then when that mud starts to build up too much weight, if the mud gets too thick and too heavy, we can't have the penetration rate to drill that we need. So as the mud gets too heavy, we do what they call jet. We jet that mud out of our working tanks into our reserve pit. There is absolutely nothing in this drilling mud that's not either natural or food grade chemical. Christine, the three biggest components in our drilling mud will be bentonite gel from the state of Wyoming and fresh water.
Is there any mud in it?
It makes mud.
Once it's
and
drilled.
the third component's just going to be the earth that we drill. It has to be able to withhold. It has to be able to hold 1.5 times the capacity of the largest tank inside there.
Okay. So just 1.5 of the largest tank, not combined tank.
No.
Gotcha.
The thinking is that if you had a failure, you're probably not going to have both tanks fail at the same time. And normally, one tank is either completely empty down to the pipeline connection, which is about 18 inches. It's either completely empty or partially empty. And so the regulation the Oil and Gas Commission has is that the firewall or berm has to be large enough and high enough to contain 1.5 times the capacity of the largest tank within it.
And it can be made out of natural earth or concrete or synthetic fibers too, can it not?
It can. The one that we're going to put around the tanks over on the Curry location are going to be metal. And they'll stand up about this high, and it'll be a metal band that'll go around it instead of earth.
What is your timer allowing this to do this? You said it was for 11 hours. Are you doing it at night? Are you doing it during working hours? What are you doing?
Stagger it all the way around.
Really?
That probably varies per well. Each well, we core all these wells. We physically cut whose well it is. The workover rigs, when it comes in to work on the well and help us complete it, they'll pull to that end of the location and then back up. That left me with only one place to put my tank in. So everything is routed up down here on this end of the location. Plus, it's going to buy the car. Their tank is low on the driver's side. The pulls on my location. He's going to pull on the location empty. We pull back up there and load. His first move off my location is low, so he's not. If you look, we a few roots